Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Empowering Empathy. How's it going, everyone? This is the show where we talk about the power of compassion, personal growth, and professional success. And as always, we have, in addition to me, Mike, we have our co-host, Mr. Brian Markham. He's our expert on all things Brian. And ta-da, we have a very special guest, way more importanter than we are. Mrs. Crystal Metheny, and thanks so much for joining us, Crystal.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Welcome, Crystal.
Thank you.
Yeah, we like to give Brian a hard time because he's really, really good at pronouncing people's last names.
Metheny.
Yeah.
Wow, you got it. First try. Look
Yes,
at you.
I know.
There's a first for everything, right?
You just say it once and I'll remember it for like at least 30 seconds. And then it goes right out the window.
You guys have only known each other for a couple of years, so it's bound to happen eventually.
Metheny.
Look at that. Look at that.
Metheny.
Nailed it.
What did it say? You gotta say something 66 times to have it?
Wow.
I think it's 7, but you've
okay.
exceeded. You,
66. That's good.
you've exceeded that substantially.
Okay.
Anyway, what are we talking about today, guys? I know we got Crystal here for a reason.
That's
so.
right.
Absolutely.
So Crystal hails from the great city and state of Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah.
Home of the...
With an S.
What's the home of? What's Des Moines?
We got lots of corn. Lots of corn and pigs.
But not even eating corn.
No.
Field corn.
Yep.
Yeah.
And lots of pigs. I think we have per capita more pigs than people, but we might want to fact check.
You haven't
That's
been
amazing.
to one of my family reunions, then. So, because I think we got you beat. You haven't met my cousins.
Awesome.
No, Eddie and Billy, and anyhow, they're down in West Virginia. So yes, Crystal is our director of HR. Human resources for here at Golden. And I am super excited about this topic of conversation because I believe that if you can get this right in your organization, it can truly be a game changer for bringing in the right resources and the right talent into your company. And so, so at the beginning of this year, maybe the end of last year, 2023-24, I came to realize that along with not documenting our processes and creating standard operating procedures around each one of our departments, which is, operations and delivery and sales and just being able to document every one of our workflows, because I do believe, and Crystal's an expert in this space, is in order to grow and you have scalability, you have to have processes documented so you can build training around it and you can scale around it, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So we were flying by the seat of our pants when Crystal joined us. And I knew that the very, very first one that we had to do was around internal hiring. And I don't know about you guys, but in most companies, I know what we found out was we were really good at helping our clients find strong talent. Our recruiting process for our clients is phenomenal. They go through 4 different steps, lots of different video interviews, video technical tests, video functional tests, all kinds of different processes. But when it came to internal hiring, for hiring salespeople, hiring recruiters, hiring leadership operations, we weren't very good at it. And so it's hiring the wrong person is probably the most expensive thing that you can do.
So costly.
Yeah. And so when I came to Crystal, I said, hey, help me build a better hiring process. So I'll ask you this question. When I asked you that and we got started, what were kind of your first few steps in getting into that process?
Yeah. So first I had to start off and go, where are we now?
Yeah.
What do we have? What's our system? What's our process? We're, like you said, we're really great with clients, but what were we doing internally? And then I was like, okay, so what kind of resources, books, podcasts? And then when we're looking at these positions, do we have job descriptions? Do we have something that we're hiring these people off of?
Right.
Or are we just going, this is the position, let's go?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things that we kind of had to look at and get a baseline to start off with.
And I think when we did look back at our original space and our original interviewing process, one thing that was kind of a jaw dropper for me was we were sending people through 4 or 5 rounds of interviews. And we were making sure this person liked them, this person. Yep. And we would get feedback. Yeah, I really like that person. Yeah, I really like that person. But what I found was we were all asking the same stupid questions.
Yep. A lot of repetitive questions.
Yeah. So why did you leave here? Why did you go here? What
Except
was
for
your-
me, I have weird questions.
Yes. Well, and Michael is his gigantic department. We have lots of marketing questions.
Huge.
Huge. So, and yes, we oftentimes went on if we like the person or not,
Right.
and
Gut
obviously
feeling.
cultures and food. So there's the beginning state. Tell us about. Let's get into the job descriptions and scorecard. How did you tackle that?
Yeah, so first what I did is I went to each department, each stakeholder, and said, okay, what positions do we have? And what do we have for job descriptions? Let's look at it and see what we have. Okay, what's important? What metrics are we trying to hit? So we develop not only the job duties and tasks that they're going to be doing, but what are we trying to make sure that they accomplish? So we set up a job description and a scorecard, which with each department and each position. So we know that when we go out to hire this position, a recruiter, for example, we want them to be able to have this skill set and hit these metrics. And so that's in front of them, and that's also in front of us. So when we're looking, we know exactly what we're targeting.
So let's talk a little bit about the details about the scorecard and the metrics, because I think you can make those very fluffy
Yep.
and not very measurable.
Yeah.
And then you can also make them too ridiculously measurable. And so did we set up yearly scorecard and then quarterly? How do we break down our scorecarding system?
So what we have is we have the job description, which gives like the qualitative information. And then on the scorecard, it's more quantitative. So we have numbers. And then we have quarterly metrics. So there's a little bit of both. It's an overall picture yearly. And then we specifically go to the manager and say, what do you want this to look like in this quarter?
Right.
What are they trying to target?
So let's use sales and recruiting as an example. On the sales side, it would be number of placements that person made in their first year, or number of dollar margin revenue that they brought in?
It could be one. It could be both. It kind of depends on the position, and are they new in the industry? Are they coming over with a book, bringing a book of business? It kind of depends.
So you have like a junior, mid, and senior level
Correct.
scorecards.
Yeah, and they're all separate because you got to know what you're targeting, right? You don't want to put a junior and a senior level.
Right.
And then they can't hit those metrics and they fail.
Right.
So it all depended, and I just worked with each of those stakeholders, so the managers, and said, okay, what does this look like? What is reasonable in this economy? Not 2021, 2022, what's good for now? And then you have to look at it annually and adjust.
Right. So you have old way to do it, then you have the scorecards, job descriptions, and then that comes the new way.
Yep.
And we mentioned a couple things. We obviously went out and looked at third-party resources and studied a few things.
Yeah, read some books, looked at podcasts, looked at, industry standards of what it should be, and just kind of put all that information together to kind of formulate, here's our standard operating procedures, and then took that back to the leadership team and said, okay, I got to have your buy-in, because I don't want to create a policy that's going to sit. We've got to have buy-in.
It's got to be alive.
If this is a problem, what do you want fixed? How do we fix this? We need process, which, some people change, or process can be difficult to get them to stick to every time.
Yes. We hit some whitewater.
Yeah, a little bit. But once you have it in place, it can be a great thing as well.
Right.
It's not there to limit you. It's there to create the structure so that we make sure that we have documentation
Right.
each time.
Exactly. And a shout out. One thing that we did was just one book that I really liked was Who Hiring.
Yes.
That was a referral to me from shout out to Skylar from Rise Up Kings. You guys, he gives a presentation about this. That was we listened to multiple podcasts, read a couple different books, and then built our own workflow. Talk about the interview process.
Yeah.
The new version that we landed with.
Yeah, so not only with the scorecards did I meet with each of the stakeholders, but I also met with them about the interview questions. What's important for you to find out from a potential candidate that we're going to hire? What we typically do is we start with an HR round. So I cover the basic questions that we want to know. Is this going to work? A hybrid schedule, a remote schedule, culture. Here's our culture. How does that fit? It's not about just a sign on the door. It's about living, breathing, those kind of things. And then, we have that phase one. Then we go into the different hiring manager questions. And so I just met with each one and said, what's important to you? And we develop questions around looking at the scorecard, can they hit those? And then we developed questions of what they needed to know based on the candidate. So we didn't have redundancy from interview to interview. I was asking a set questions. Obviously there's some fluidity with that. You can have more conversation. You're not, stuck to, I have to ask this question this way every time.
Yeah.
It can be conversational, but you've got to have the gist of, I can look candidate to candidate, have it documented and have the same answers or the same general information from each person. So just met with them, got those questions, got them approved, documented, and then now we have the process of here's step 1, HR, then step 2, hiring manager. Step 3 might be an assessment.
Yeah, and so just talking about the questions on the interview, I think it's very important. There's a lot of great books out there that teach you some good questions to ask in an interview, but most importantly is don't ask the same questions in each one of the interviews. If we had 4 interviews in the process, we had 4 sets of data that was completely different. We didn't have the same data 4 different times.
Right.
And after the first HR interview, then the manager interview, then we went to an assessment tool.
Yeah.
And we've used, Can They Sell, CTS for salespeople, Myers-Briggs, Strengths Finders. There's all kinds of tools out there.
Absolutely.
And I just evaluate which ones work best for you. And it's not it can be a deal breaker if they're really bad tests. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's really not, it doesn't make or break it, right?
Right. It just gives you more information.
Another piece of data.
Exactly.
And oftentimes I found that those assessment tools are better for a management tool after you hire them than it is a yes or no decision on
coaching opportunities for sure.
Absolutely. So then, so we got first couple rounds, and then the assessment tool, and then final would be with either superior or colleagues.
Yep, exactly. Peers or leadership team, those kind of things, and then come back together.
But I think the secret here is to have all this documented. So you have the job description, you have the scorecards. Yep. You have the who's interviewing what steps of each position, what are the questions that they're going to ask. And questions are critical too, and Crystal isn't giving her a lot of credit because the questions that you ask can really drill down into the right. I think a lot of people ask softball questions and they don't get into the meat of things. I like questions like, so what if I were to talk to your manager at this position, if I were to check a reference and call this manager, what would he say or she say that you need to work on in that position? Right. And almost as if you're going to call those people, or just hard questions like if you're talking to salespeople. So what revenue did you close last year? What margin? How many deals did you knock down? I think we kind of get nervous around these interviews and
tiptoe. Yeah.
And then when they start, we're realizing, oh shoot, this person didn't close any deals last year. Why? What? So you have to dig down into it, and obviously having an expert in human resources and understanding that is really critical because you want to make sure you don't ask the wrong questions either.
Right. Yes.
So that's a piece of it. There's another piece that I'm going to give our buddy over here, our rock and roller, Mr. Michael Walker, credit for. One thing that I found that we did wrong in our hiring process is we would ride 2 or 3 candidates through the whole process. And we would wait 4, 5, 6 weeks, and everybody was like, yeah, I like them, but I don't love her. But okay, good, but not great. And then we're like, well, we've got to spend 8 weeks on these 3 candidates. So the big thing is filling up that top end of that funnel. Yeah.
We needed a bigger net.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's where Mr. Marketing Guy comes in, along with some other work. But Michael, you one of your quarterly rocks, I think Q1 of 2024, if I'm not mistaken, was to build this social media marketing campaign around filling in the top end of the funnel. Can you share with this beautiful audience some of the attributes of your plan?
Yes. I hope they're beautiful. I can't see them because we're, TV here, but
that's right.
Anyway, that's another issue. Largely, it's not that undifferent than lead generation in other areas, right? We're essentially looking to generate leads for potential, in this case, it was sales and recruiting folks. But a lot of the same things went into it. There was some paid ads, there was some social media campaigns, there was some, revamping of job boards and job descriptions and making sure that the creative part, not just the functional part, was in line. Things that are attractive to people that are perusing the internet and the social media platforms. Some things look boring and you don't click on them. Some things are funny and you're like, that sounds cool. I might like to work there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, just as a random example, I put together a graphic post with Lionel Richie.
Awesome.
Some of you out there are old enough to remember the "Hello, Is It You?" I'm looking for song, and the album cover with the big Lionel Richie hair. So I borrowed that image and put "Hello, is it you we're looking for" out there, and that was pretty popular. So we got lots of shares and lots of views, and
Great
that kind of
feedback.
helped generate some interest and that sort of thing. So,
and I think you also, one thing I thought was pretty cool is you also interviewed some of our stakeholders in those positions already. So, if it was sales, we were able to get some of our BDMs behind the camera, get them out on social media. So people,
what it's like to work
what
here,
it's like to work
what
here,
are our
kinda,
values,
yeah, yeah,
what drew you to us, before you'd ever heard of us, that sort of thing. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and so while you may not have a dedicated marketing expert like we blessed here with Golden, sometimes blessed. The reality is that a lot of that work is something that you can easily do on your own. It's you don't have to put it in beautiful graphics, but it's a repetitive process out there on your LinkedIn, on your Instagram, on your X, on your Facebook, and just kind of building that out there. And then a couple of things that I would say is what I learned is like people are like, oh, I'm looking for someone and I can't find anybody. I'm like, well, have you gone out and taken that job description and shared it with 10 people in your industry that you know from the experiences that you have? Typically, they're like, no. Well, what did you do? Well, I put a job ad on a Monster. Okay. What about Dice? What about LinkedIn? What about, and so you have to put the effort in to get that top end of the funnel stuffed. Yeah. And so from here on out, I'm not going to be making decisions, especially mid to upper level positions, and saying, how many candidates did we review? Oh, I talked to 3 people. Nope. I'm going to talk to at least that front end HR side, even the manager. I want to hear 10, 15, 20 people. And then the other thing I would say is we did leverage some of our internal recruiters who at times we were a bit slow on client recs and so forth, incentivize them. We built out a pretty healthy referral program for our employees, which was great. And those referral programs are only as good as you market them, and then we also used outside agencies. I would say agencies are going to be expensive because we're expensive. Because we're one of those agencies for the IT space. But at the end of the day, if you find an A player and it costs you 10, 15, 20 grand, that person will give you an ROI pretty quick.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd also like to add that, especially when looking for the A players, as you all should, it's not just one thing. It's not just the internal recruiting. It's not the employee referral program. It's not the marketing. It's the whole picture, because the A players are out there already working.
Yes.
They're not just sitting around on the job boards, cruising. They're busy. They're working. And if you want the A players, I'm not saying you got to go poach people from competitors, but use that network and put it out there and make sure that you are getting it in front of as many eyes as possible to reach the right people.
Yeah.
Right.
Lots of different channels.
I can't tell you how many times I've talked to an A player when they've saw our job ad on a 4 o'clock on a Friday, because that week they had a really bad week at their employer,
Yeah.
or oftentimes the incentive plan changes, and so there's lots of times, and you just got to have that. It's where time, they say luck is when hard work and time. What's the word? I don't know. Whatever it is. When those two match up, that's exactly when finding the right talent. So yeah, that is our HR internal hiring standard operating procedure. And I have to give you a little compliment here, and you get a kick out of this. So if you're in the staffing industry, if you're in HR, recruiting and perm recruiting or staffing, your clients' HR departments were sometimes not your competition, but they oftentimes didn't love you because you were sometimes making them look bad, or they couldn't find the people and you were finding the people, whatever. I always tried my
Causing
best.
extra work.
Yes, I was always trying my best to get along with everybody. So this is like 12 years ago, 10 years ago. I was sitting in a swimming pool with my brother-in-law. Maybe we had a drink in our hand, and he was just retiring. And he's like, "Hey, your organization is going to change when you hire a really good HR person." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?
I hate HR.
I'm not hiring Toby." Is that his name?
Yes, it's Toby.
Okay.
Crystal Toby, same
Crystal Toby, same thing. But I can honestly say getting this structure, getting this organization, getting our scalability, it's not just the silly HR things that you see. It really adds that kind of exponential value to your organization. So I'm just so grateful that you joined Golden.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Toby.
Perfect. I'll go back in the annex now.
No, but there you go. And stay tuned, because we're going to follow up, not today and in a couple weeks after Christmas probably. Standard operating procedures. So hiring is just one standard operating procedure. We built ones out for our delivery team, our operations team, our sales team. And having that, what I want to talk about moving forward is how that changed the game. And then secondly is now that we've got these built, now what? What's phase 2 of our SOPs? Because whenever someone hears the word SOP, there's like eye rolling, like, do I really? Let's go to page 42 of the manual and follow this, that, and the other. But
clear the dust off first.
Yes.
I can still hear my grade school gym teacher reciting page 13.
yes,
It was the uniform code and all that.
Oh, man.
I just picture like war games where a 12-year-old's trying to disarm a nuclear bomb, and he's got to go into the standard operating procedures to punch in a code.
I have to also add that me and some of my cohorts were responsible for page 13 turning into page 13 and 14.
You added to it. Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, that's another episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the life and times of Michael Walker.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Yes. So there you go, folks. Take some time and build out your hiring process. It'll change the game. And I'm telling you, the people that have come on board this year have the success rate is tremendously. And let's face it, in sales and in recruiting, the success rate's always kind of scratchy the head sometimes. And so you can change a person's life by making sure you make the right hire, and you can change their life by making them the wrong hire too. And so make a decision on getting the right person in, and don't just settle. So there you go, Mr. Walker. Thanks to you, and thanks to our HR magician here.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Toby out.
Well, that's about all we have time for today. Thank you for joining us once again. Crystal, thanks for being here
Absolutely.
and making Brian look good.
Metheny.
Look at that.
Twice in a row.
I think
Twice
that's
in a
7.
row.
I think he hit 7.
That's pretty awesome. Maybe it'll stick. Anyway, before we get off the rails, thank you all for joining us again. This has been Empowering Empathy, and it's the show where we talk about the power of compassion, personal growth, and professional success. And we're getting out of here, so check us out
Bye,
next
guys.
time.
Peace.
See ya.